Money saving tips for digital nomads. Let's talk about money. I have been a digital nomad since 2013, so more than 10 years, and I have been traveling to spending time in more than 50 countries. And in this video, I want to talk about the things that I have learned about the financial aspect, how to save money as a digital nomad, how to spend more wisely as a digital nomad. Number 1. Stay in one place for a month or more. Not only does it save money, but also the nerves, because you see, you don't have to constantly move, you don't have to constantly change places, learn about new environments. You can stay in one place, go on day trips, go on weekend trips, save money at the same time, because yes, booking a place for a month or more is cheaper. In 2024, my number one choice still for long-term stays is Airbnb. They have better prices than Booking or Agoda or other accommodation booking sites. Alternatively, you can also go to hotel websites and look if they have special deals for long stays. Sometimes they have, but keep in mind that this can be time consuming. Number 2. Look for accommodation on local Facebook groups. Yes, that's also an option. And if you are not familiar with that place, that city, that country, then look on pages, on groups, on communities that are made for digital nomads, for travelers, for expats. This is where you will find more people that are similar to you, and also the chance that you will find accommodation that fits you there is much higher. It's gonna be easier in these groups. So look for those groups and look for accommodation there. Walk or use public transportation. Yes, in some countries, some places, some cities, also taxis are cheap, but it all adds up. And if you can, try, look up if walking is an option, if taking public transportation is an option, because oftentimes it's gonna be cheaper. And if that works for you, great. Why not take the cheaper option? 4. Create a budget and track your expenses. Speaking of the expenses, it's super easy. We use an iPhone app called Expenses OK. You just type in the amount that you just spent, click on the category that you have created to categorize it. That's it. It's saved. You don't have to decide in detail how much you are going to spend on everything. Just come up with the number, the monthly number, and stick to it. I personally almost never think of a price of a single item. I like to look at the bigger picture. How much I have spent throughout the week, how much I have spent in a month, and when you use an app for that, tracking is super simple. Like super simple. 5. You don't have to stay in the main tourist areas. Just do a quick research on the city. Go to Google Maps, find the places that you would like to go to, find the places that you would like to be nearby to. Then check out what are the public transportation options to get there, how much time it takes, how much does it cost. Use apps like Uber, Grab, Careem, Bolt to check out what are the taxi prices, and then decide on an area that fits your needs. Very often staying just 10 minutes on a transportation away from the main tourist areas is significantly cheaper or offers better value for money, or both. 6. Use Revolut, Wise or other bank cards made for travelers. Look, I don't know how all bank cards in the world work, but what I do know is that most of people, when it comes to banks, they are not aware of all the fees. They don't know how much and for what banks charge them. See, here's an example with Latvian bank cards. With most of Latvian bank cards, if I use them abroad, I don't use them because I use Revolut. But if I use them abroad, here is how it works. Let's imagine I'm withdrawing an amount equivalent to 100 American dollars. So I go to ATM, take $100, the bank is going to charge me that amount of money. It's going to exchange it to euro because my bank accounts are in euro, and will take $1 or $2 for that exchange. Second, since I'm withdrawing money abroad, the bank will charge me also for that. Usually that's something like $5-6. So $2 for the exchange, $5 for withdrawal abroad. Then the next comes the fee from the ATM, from that ATM where I'm taking the money. It can be also something like $5-6-7. And in the end, just to withdraw 100 American dollars, I'm gonna pay something like 112, 114, 115. So extra 10, 12, $15 just for one withdrawal. If you do it a lot, if you do it frequently, you can pay like $100+ every month just in fees, unnecessary fees. Because if you use the bank cards made for travelers like Revolut and Wise, you can save at least half of that. Extra tip: to pay less the fees. Just withdraw money less frequently. Plan the withdrawals and you'll save money. 7. Eat local or cook your own food, because it makes a huge difference. There's a high chance that food for you, same like for me, is one of the main expenses. For me personally, the 3 main expenses are accommodation, food and transportation. And in transportation I include also flights. So being mindful of that, paying attention to how much you spend on food is gonna have a great effect on your total expenses. Book cheap flights. You are a nomad, you have a flexibility. Use that flexibility to your advantage. Book flights on days when it's cheaper. Book flights to places where it's cheaper to travel to. Of course, if it makes sense, take into account also the other expenses. Generally speaking, if you can and plan a little bit, something like 2 to 4 months in advance, and book flights and accommodation in advance, these 2 to 4 months, you are getting better deals, both on flights and also accommodation. 9. Buy travel insurance. Travel insurance for digital nomads, for long-term travelers. Yes, there are special insurances for long-term travelers, and they cost starting from something like $50. It's cheap and it just makes sense, because even if you pay for the insurance for the whole year, it's still significantly cheaper oftentimes than going to hospital for a small emergency. Buy quality things. It may not be the most obvious thing, but as I have seen it again and again and again over the years, quality things help you save money in the long run. Plus, you enjoy them using so much more than cheaper alternatives. So now, for the past at least 5, 6, 7 years, whenever buying something, I have been asking myself 3 questions. First, is it good? Second, is it going to last? And third, is it going to make my everyday better? And if the answer is yes, then I'm getting that thing, even though it may cost twice as much or 3 times as much or 5 times as much as a cheaper alternative, because it also saves me time. I'll better buy a laptop which is really good and will last me 5 years or longer than buying a cheaper one and then upgrading sooner. The same goes for everything: electronics, clothing, and for example also accommodation. Speaking of the latter, yes, sometimes it makes sense to pay for a more central or more fancier place just because it's in a location that you want to be in, or it has amenities that you want to have. For example, it has a good gym and you stay there and you don't need to go to a gym. It just makes sense. I pay attention to these things. I recommend you to pay attention to these things. Yes, the costs may be higher, and they often are, that better laptop costs more, and also that better and fancier hotel costs more. But if you look at the total expenses, if you look at the expenses in the long run, it often makes a lot of sense financially. That's it for today. See you soon.